to my channel. Today I have for you a video that quite a few of you had requested to see, and that was an eyebrow routine video. I have shown how I do my eyebrows usually when I do my makeup, and I've done makeup routines. I'll link some videos here and down in the info box below so that you can see those. But yeah, I thought I would do a more in-depth video since a lot of you have requested it, and maybe it just doesn't come across that well when I do my full makeup routine. So I thought I would do a really in-depth video of how I maintain my brows, how I take care of them, what I do to groom them, and how I actually fill them in when I do my makeup. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Let's get straight into it. But before that, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you already haven't subscribed to the channel. I upload twice a week and I would love to have you back. And also don't forget to hit that little bell right next to the subscribe button so that you get a notification every time I upload a new video. So let's talk brows, guys. So my brows are actually not something that I really like, but a lot of you seem to want to know how I upkeep them. My brows are actually pretty strange. So my natural brows have always been quite thin and sparse, even though I have dark hair and usually kind of Asian people tend to have really kind of full brows. I don't have very full brows at all, but the hair in my brows is really, really long, and it's just hard to kind of know what to do with that. It kind of goes like, one hair can go from the beginning of my brow to kind of halfway to my brow. But I don't like to cut them too much because then my brows just look even more sparse than they did to begin with. So I actually used to wax my brows, and that's how I kind of started to groom them when I was quite young. But I did find that, you know, when they used to wax them, because with wax it's hard to be more precise, I used to find that because they weren't too thick to begin with, they ended up looking way too thin. And after waxing them for a few years, I ended up having very, very thin brows. They were almost like a thread, and they used to look absolutely awful. And I had quite nice brows when I was kind of a kid, but then a lot of the hairs didn't grow back, and I ended up with really, really thin and sparse brows, which I really regret now because I wish I had thicker brows. But yeah, so then I stopped waxing them, and what I started to do was tweeze them, and I actually shaped my brows myself, and I found that they looked a lot better. So I am going to show you, when I fill in my brows, how to decide on the perfect shape of your brow, where you should have your arch, where they should start and where they should end. So I'll get into that in a little bit. But basically, I started to just tweeze them myself, and that's what I do till date. I just tweeze my brows. So I've come up with the kind of perfect shape that I like, and I just kind of upkeep it by tweezing them. And I tweeze my brows every single day I do my makeup. So when I don't do my makeup, sometimes I forget, but I try to do this on an everyday basis so that there's just kind of 3 or 4 hairs to sort of tweeze, and the shape never kind of gets changed. I don't have too much hair, and I kind of have to reshape them all over again. So there might be just 1 or 2 hairs that have come here, or some hairs down here in the middle, because I did have a monobrow when I was a kid, I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, so I just basically pluck those out with my tweezers, and that's how I maintain the shape. So I don't actually go to get my brows done anywhere, and I have tried threading, but it really, really swells my skin up, so it doesn't really work for me. And yeah, even down here, my hair is really, really thin now, so with the tweezers it just comes out really easily, and it's really easy to upkeep, and it's also free, which is really good. And it means that I don't have to kind of schedule an appointment to go and fill them in, and I hate having like messy brows. I just find that your makeup just looks absolutely awful, especially your eye makeup, if you have messy brows. So this way I can upkeep them, I can tweeze them every single day, and that means that they're never, never messy. I don't actually cut this hair, like I said, because it just makes my brows look more sparse. But here, the hair at the front, because it grows upwards, so this hair sort of grows downwards like this, but these hairs grow upwards, so these ones kind of go straight up. So I do trim these here, so that my brow is all in shape. So I just kind of comb them through with a spoolie and then brush them upwards, and when they're all up, I just kind of trim them with a pair of scissors so that I know exactly what shape they need to be. So basically I just trim them up, and then this line that I've created here with the pencil, I create that line with the pencil as if I was filling in my brows, and whatever hair is coming out of the shape that I've created with my pencil, I just sort of trim them with a pair of scissors. And I tend to do that when I've done my makeup, because I like to have them filled so that I see what is popping out of the filled in shape of the brow, because I fill them in to make them a little bit thicker than they are naturally, and I will explain all of that in a second. So yeah, that's what I tend to do to upkeep them. And to fill them in, I like to do a 3-step process. So first I fill them in with pencil, and I really like thin pencils because that's the easiest way to kind of create fake hairs if you want. And then I set them in with powder, and then finally I put a clear gel to kind of smooth the to smooth my brows out and make it look kind of all nice and even, and not actually like as if it had sort of a lot of powder over it. That makes them look a lot more natural. And yeah, what I do is I just fill them in with pencil and then the powder and the gel, like I said. And I don't actually do any kind of concealing around. What I do is I do my eye makeup with my normal kind of highlight underneath my brow, like you've seen in all my tutorials. I love using the one in this Eyebrow palette by Fleur de Force, which is a brow palette, and I love the highlight shade here. That's a powder highlight. I don't actually use concealer under my brows, which I know is now like a huge Instagram trend and so many people do it, but I just find it's completely unnecessary. I just put my kind of base for my eyeshadows, then I do my eyeshadows, and I actually do the highlight underneath my brow and after I've done all the eyeshadow around here, because I just find it sort of cleans up if any eyeshadow has gone too far up. And then after I've done my eyeshadow, I just fill in my brows like I would normally, and then I just use a beauty blender to just clean around if any sort of powder has fallen out or if the pencil has kind of smudged a little bit. I just clean it with like the tip of my beauty blender, and I find that's good enough, and I don't really need to use concealer or anything. I also bleach my brows, so because my natural hair color is really dark, my brows are very black, and I find that that makes my features look too harsh, and also it doesn't go with like my current hair color. So I use Andina, which is a bleaching cream, but I've also used Jolene before. You can get that in Boots, and they are kind of hair bleach creams that you can use on your face. I use it to bleach the hair around here as well because I have a little bit of baby hairs around here. So I've spoken about that in a vlog, which I will link on the screen now so you can go and check it out. But any bleaching cream is good. You need to make sure that you're not allergic though, so make sure that you do a test patch if you're going to use it. But basically I use that and I just put it all over my brows, and I leave it on for about 4 to 5 minutes. If I leave it on too long, they have gone orange before, so I always make sure I don't leave them on for too long. But yeah, I bleach them, and that just kind of tones the color a little bit down. They become a little bit kind of more brownish than so black, and that's really nice because if there's any baby hairs around here, those get bleached into completely white and you just can't see them. So it's really good because if I can't pick those with the tweezers, it sort of really cleans around my brows. And yeah, I do that every sort of maybe 2 weeks or something, and that just softens the color a little bit to match the color of my hair. And then I use a little bit of a darker brow powder to kind of bring it back, because sometimes if you bleach them, they look a little bit not orange, but they look a little bit brassy, because my natural hair color has a lot of red pigment, so when I lighten it, they do look a little bit brassy. But I find that with the powder or even the pencil, they just go back to like a nice ashy brown shade, which is exactly what I want. So now I'm going to show you exactly how I fill them in and what my routine is to get these brows that I normally have. They look quite a lot thicker than they are naturally, but just the same shape but just a bit thicker because, like I said, they're naturally quite thin. So I'm going to show you what that process now, so stay tuned for that. Okay guys, as you can see, I don't have anything on my brows now. I have my full face of makeup done. I'm just going to do my brows. Usually when I'm doing my brows, I tend to do them sort of before I do my lips and my kind of contouring, powder contouring. I tend to do them as when I finish my eye makeup, I do my brows. But I will link a full tutorial up here of a kind of full makeup routine so that you can see when I fit it into my routine. But let's get straight into actually filling in my brows. So lately I've been using this Estee Lauder pencil, and this is the Automatic Brow Pencil Duo, but I really like the Charlotte Tilbury one as well. I will show you here on the screen which ones they are, but I really like the Charlotte Tilbury brow pencil as well, and I really like MAC Lingering. And you might think Lingering is a little bit too light for me, but I always use a lighter color than I actually need, because I find that then I like to darken them with powders just in strategic areas rather than make them look really dark and really harsh, because I think that really kind of hardens my features. And I like to make them a little bit thicker than I have them naturally. My natural eyebrows are quite thin. So I just, you know, if I use a very harsh pencil, it just looks like too much. So I'm going to go straight in with this one. This one I quite like because, I mean, it has like a weird brush on this side, which I don't really know what it's for. And on this side it has the pencil, and it's quite a wide pencil. I tend to like thinner ones actually. But this one's okay actually. You fill them in really quickly because it's quite broad, quite thick. But the thinner ones create more natural looking hairs, but I've kind of run out of my MAC Lingering, which was the best one for doing that. Unfortunately, the MAC Lingering though, I have to say it breaks really easily, which is really annoying because I went through mine so quickly, because every time you take out a little bit of extra, kind of you push it out a little bit extra, it just broke, which was really annoying. But yeah, so anyway, what I do is I follow the natural shape of my brows. Around here, I don't know how well you can see it on camera, but here, my brows are really, really thin. So I kind of thicken them a little bit around there, and then I try to make them a little bit more angular, because you should basically have your, so the way to kind of measure how your eyebrows should look is you should take a brush or a pencil or anything, and the middle of your eye should be where your arch is. And my arch is not very prominent, as you can see here, just because my brows are so thin. So I find that I like to make it a little bit more prominent, but it should be right over the middle of your eye, and then the end of your nose going through the corner of your eye should be where your brows end. As you can see, mine are okay. And then the corner of your nose all the way straight up should be where your brows start. Now you can see mine start a little bit more inside, just because my nose is quite broad. So in order to make it look a little bit thinner, my brows start slightly inside and not exactly with the side of my nose, just because that would mean they were too far apart, and it kind of makes my eyes look a bit weird, just because my nose is quite broad on the base. So yeah, so I like to make it look less dark on the front, just because it can look very boxy and harsh. And then I kind of arch it a little bit, and then the tail of my brow is really thin, so I fill it in from the top, because that's where I lack hair. So basically I just follow the natural shape, but I just make them a little bit thicker, and I sort of end it where it naturally ends, because my brows are kind of long enough. And I just do very small strokes, kind of simulating natural hairs. That's what I want to do. I want to create kind of hairs with the tip of my pencil. So I take the tip and I just kind of do small strokes, feathery strokes to create. So as you can see, that brow already looks a lot thicker than this brow. Okay, so now that both brows are filled in, what I like to do with a pencil is really kind of shape them and make both brows look the same, because this brow I have is more kind of rounded and this one is a bit more pointy, so they both look really different, and most people have that. Like most brows, like they say, the sisters, they're not twins, so the pencil is a good way to kind of shape them and make them look as even as possible. Then what I do is I'm going to take a spoolie. I'm taking the back one on the back of this pencil by Charlotte Tilbury, and I'm just going to brush them through just to make that pencil look more natural. This is sort of going to fade the pencil, and it's going to make it look a lot more natural. And I'm always brushing upwards and outwards. And you want to follow the natural shape of your hairs. Like my hair at the front grows up, and then it sort of grows like this, kind of falling back. And because they're quite long, if I don't brush them in the right direction, they can look very, very messy. But you always want to brush upwards and outwards. So I'm going to take a brow powder now, and I love this one by Fleur de Force for Isla because it's really customizable. You get it in like 3 shades. I think it's light, medium and dark. This one is the dark. And I really like the fact that you get a lighter powder and a darker powder, and also this one is a highlight powder to just highlight underneath your brow, and I find it's really, really good. I've used it in so many tutorials. I'll link a tutorial up here which is a full kind of makeup routine, and you can see how I use this. But basically I like to highlight and do all my eyeshadow before, and then I sort of fill my brows later. But I really like this powder, and these two you can mix and it gets a really nice kind of customizable shade, and you can kind of make it lighter at the front, darker in the middle, which is what I like to do. I'm going to take this brush. This one's by Mikasa, and it's an angled brush, and it's a little bit hard. You want to take one that's not too soft so that you can actually kind of create sort of flicks for the hair, because if it's too soft it's just going to smudge all over. So I'm just going to kind of dip it into both powders a little bit, and then I'm going to use that to kind of fill in the center. And I'm going to go over the areas where the kind of pencil has faded, and again sort of in small strokes trying to create hairs. I'm just going to fill in those areas And this is gonna, first of all, set the pencil, make it last a lot longer and not budge throughout the day, but also give it a much more natural finish, because with the pencil, it can look a little bit harsh, and with the powder, it just looks a lot more faded. And then I'm just gonna take the lighter shade, because I want it to look lighter at the front, and I'm gonna use this to sort of fill in the front. And I always wanna start from sort of here, and then sort of when the brush has less product, then move to the front, because you want the front to look really natural. So now both brows are filled in, I'm going to take the beauty blender and I'm just going to kind of wipe around the brows to kind of just, any product that's fallen out or that's kind of been smudged, I'm just going to clean it all up to make my brows look really nice and neat. And then I'm going to take this side of the sponge, which is what I use to bake, so it has a little bit of powder still in there. And I'm going to use this to just powder around my brows without kind of leaving a lot of product. Okay, so now my brows are almost finished. I'm going to take this Anastasia Beverly Hills clear brow gel, and this is just to set them in place. And I like to use a clear brow gel because I've already got enough product on my brows, so I don't want to add too much. But this sort of separates the hairs and it makes it look a lot more natural. It kind of takes that powdery look to the brows and then makes them look a lot more kind of polished and more like there's actual hair rather than a lot of powder. So I'm just using this and sort of just brushing over the brows very gently because you don't want to remove any of the product you have already applied. Okay guys, well I hope you enjoyed this video and that you like how my brows turned out. This is the final look. I hope this video was useful to teach you how to maintain your brows, or at least how I do that. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!